What's going on, fifth graders? It's time for us to start our Science Clash videos. I'm going to start off with the January 2022 Top 10 Science Clash cards. And so we're going to go over what I think are the top 10 cards in the set right now. This is based on what people actually have the chance of getting, not cards that have been powered up in class and things of that nature. But these are cards that you can get in the packs, cards for being the student of the week, and things like that. And so let's go over these. Coming in at number one, and not necessarily in any order, but coming in at number one is our Bill Nye card. Now, the Bill Nye card is a dual threat card because it has offensive and defensive capabilities. And if we read the text here, it says Bill Nye conducts an experiment that deflects 2 times the roll of a 6-sided die. So any incoming damage, you roll the die and you multiply it by 2. So you have the potential of blocking up to 12 incoming damage. And right now, that's probably the strongest defensive card that we have out there. Even when we move up in the die that we roll, we have the 20-sided die coming up in fourth quarter. This is still potentially going to be one of the strongest defensive cards moving through the entire year, because even if your opponent attacks you with a 20 and you happen to block 12 of that, that's a massive amount of damage that you're taking away from them. And then you also get to roll the die again and give damage back to the attacker, which makes this easily one of the top 10 cards of January 2022, because you could not only deflect 12 damage, you could add 12 damage to them. That could be a game-ending play, depending on where your opponent is with their points. Moving on, at number 2 is the Mrs. Klein card. And the Mrs. Klein card is special. It comes in the packs. You're able to get this one. And this one is pretty basic. It's an instant card, but it's a very basic card. You don't have to read a whole lot into it. When you play it, you attack your opponent for 5 damage. Mrs. Klein summons a wolf pack to attack your opponent for 5 damage. You can play this at any time. Perhaps your opponent has too large of a lead on you and you want to get caught up. Maybe you just hit them with a 6 damage and you just want to make it 11. You just add 5 more. You play the Mrs. Klein instant card. Now, there are 2 other versions of this Mrs. Klein card. We have the Mythic and the Legendary. And I'm not necessarily going to count these in this January 2022 top 10 because there's only one of each of these cards. The Mythic card is Mrs. Klein summons a wolf pack and you get 10 damage. The Legendary card, Mrs. Klein summons a wolf pack and you get 7 damage. Again, there's only 2 of those out there, autographed if I'm not mistaken, that are in the packs as well, which is pretty nice if you happen to pull that. If you do get one, you easily have one of the top 10 cards in the set, no doubt, because it's even better than the base Mrs. Klein card. Moving on. Card number 3 is the Mrs. Weevil card. The sorceress Miss Weevil casts a spell, and all incoming damage is divided by 2. This could be a very powerful card, depending on when it's played and how you play it, especially as we move forward into third and fourth quarter, and the die that we start to roll are getting bigger from 12-sided to 20-sided die. You could take someone's damage of 20 all the way down to 10 if you divide it by 2. And that could save you in a game. That could be a game-changing play there. Very, very powerful defensive card, in my opinion, and it easily makes the top 10 list as well. Next is the Mr. Bullins card. Bob Ross. It's the Mr. Bullins Bob Ross card. Bob Ross paints a happy little Bigfoot. You can't see him, and your opponent can't see you. You evade any incoming attack. There's no dividing of anything. If someone hits you with a 1 attack or even a 20 attack, you can use this card if you happen to have it and evade any incoming attack. That's a pretty powerful card defensively. Obviously, no offensive stats to it whatsoever. But again, evading any incoming attack is a pretty powerful card if you happen to pull this one out of the packs. And easily, that's one of the reasons why it makes into the top 10 list for January of 2022. Moving on to our next card is the Pear Deck card. You can get this one in class. I think there are some Pear Deck cards in the packs as well, but you can get this one in class when we do our Pear Deck Vocabulary Factory. And this one's pretty amazing. You get to return 1 card of your choice from your opponent's graveyard back into their hand when it's time to draw. So you just finish playing around and your opponent puts their cards down, and instead of them drawing to fill their hand back up, you actually get to go through their graveyard and pick out probably the worst card offensively and defensively that you can find and giving it back to them so that they actually play that again. Now, if you're paying attention and your opponent has played like 5 or 6 really good cards, then you might not want to use this one. But if they happen to try to get rid of a card, maybe you only throw an attack of 2, and then they throw one out there that's like a 1/1 card, and like, well, I'll just take the 1 hit, but I got to get this crappy card out of my hand. You can play this card and get that one back in their hand again and kind of keep in the back of your head. You know that they have that card, so hopefully you can play the right cards and make that one work out in your favor. So the Pear Deck card is one of the top 10 as well. Moving on is the Blue-Kit card. The Blue-Kit card. Now, again, we need to be really careful with this one. I know when we read the text, it says swap 1 card from your hand with your opponent. So if I have a 1/1 card in my hand, I get to swap that with a card from my opponent. Now, the thing is, you got to you have to give each other your cards back at the end of the game. Hence why we need to have our names on the back of our cards so that there's no arguing. But that could be potentially a game-changing card in the game. If you happen to swap out a 1/1 and they have to give you one of their really good cards, it could be a really interesting thing to see what happens as the game plays on, because they could be strategizing, thinking about their moves moving forward, and they can't play it because you play the Blue-Kit card and you steal their card from them, which is pretty awesome. Next, we have the Mrs. Alexander card. Again, this one is pretty powerful. And maybe more powerful than some of those other cards that we've looked at, because not only does this deflect any incoming damage, so your opponent's getting ready to hit you with a 20 damage card, you can deflect that entire thing and also add 3 more points to your hit points, your life points. Maybe you're getting low in the game and your opponent's about to hit you and take you out of the game completely and cause you to lose. Instantly play the Mrs. Alexander card, and not only do you deflect all the incoming damage, you get to add 3 hit points back to your total. Very, very powerful card if you think about that, and it could be one that could alter the way that the game is played from there forward, because your opponent might be trying to really take you out and play a very powerful card, and here you are deflecting all damage and adding 3 points to your life. That could change everybody's outlook on how the game's going and change everybody's strategy. We have the Bob Ross card. This one you can get in my class if you happen to be the student of the week. And this one's pretty interesting because you get to, whatever card your opponent was trying to play, just go straight to the graveyard. So whether it's a defensive card or an offensive card, that's up to you. You get to choose that when you play it because it's an instant card. So whatever card they're getting ready to play goes straight into the graveyard, and your opponent loses 3 life points. That could be something when you're getting ready to you play a big damage card and maybe they block it or something. You can pull out the Bob Ross card and say, sorry, whatever card you get ready to play goes straight to the graveyard, and you lose 3 points this round, as opposed to losing all of your hits on that one. Now, these next couple of cards are going to be extremely similar to this because they are for each home room. So as we look at the Ivan card, again, this is for Mrs. Klein's class. Counter whatever card your opponent's trying to play, go straight into the graveyard, and your opponent loses 3 points. So this is Mrs. Klein's one only Ivan card, and Miss Weevil has the exact same card if you think about it. She has the Yosef card. Counter whatever card your opponent was trying to play, go straight to the graveyard, and your opponent loses 3 life points. So it's really interesting to see something like that happen in the middle of a game. I know that we've had a few of these handed out. We got plenty of the year left moving forward for people to earn more of these as we move forward. And I think these are very important cards to have in your deck, because when you do get a chance to pull that out, you're able to really kind of change the course of the game with that, because it's extremely it's extremely unique to be able to whatever card they were getting ready to play goes straight into the graveyard, and you kind of get to counter that and also make them lose 3 points. I'm going to put a few more cards. I know that I've already had 10, but I'm going to put a couple more cards in here, I believe. And one of them would be the Just Add Magic card. This is one that we're allowed to earn in class for winning games and things like that. And what you can do with this is, no matter what card you have, when you are getting ready to play it, you can also play the Just Add Magic card alongside of it and either add, you can't do both, but you can either add +3 power or +3 toughness to your card. So you can either add some offense or some defense to your card before, right before the play goes through, and that could maybe help you overcome some defense that your opponent has, or maybe help you bump your defense up just enough to overcome the offense that your opponent plays towards you with the Just Add Magic card. The last card that I'm going to talk about, and everybody in the class has a card like this. Obviously, you don't have the Miguel card, but again, the opponent loses a turn is a huge card to have in your back pocket, because you're allowed to kind of play that at any time. Obviously, I can't imagine that you're going to do this at any other time except for when it's your opponent's turn to play offense. Because if you say, okay, you lose your turn, you don't get to just lay down a card and say, here, you don't get to play defense. If they lose a defensive turn, you just lost your offensive turn at the same time. So when it's somebody's turn to play offense, you slam your personal card down and say, sorry, you lose a turn. And it's basically giving you 2 offensive turns in a row, which, again, the name of this game is quickness and offense, and getting your opponent down to 0 before they get you to 0. So that's why these cards that each of you have are so powerful. The text up here really just kind of relates to you and things that you do in class and things that I think are unique about you. But down here, the text is all the same. Your opponent loses a turn. And I think that that's a very, very key thing. Now, it could very well happen that I play my card that causes my opponent to lose an offensive turn, and then they turn around and slap their card down and say, well, then you lose an offensive turn. It's kind of a wash. That's a chance you just have to take when you're mixing up your decks before you play. But if you can play that at the right time, your opponent loses a turn, so they've lost an offensive turn, that could really put you far, far ahead as far as the points go, which makes those defensive cards that we looked at in here just as important. Well, there you have it. That's our top 10 Science Clash cards for January 2022. Throw some comments down there. Tell me what you think. Do you think there's some cards that I left out? Let me know what those cards are, and we'll see if we can get them in there for February. Thanks a lot, and I'm sure you all want me to say it. Smash the like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you soon.